So, as you might know by now, March is seen as International Women's Month. So what is a more perfect excuse for me to talk about my favorite feminist nonfiction? I quite love feminist nonfiction, and though I'm a great believer in not needing an excuse to talk about it, just because I also will take the opportunity to share with you some of my favorites of all time. Needless to say, none of these books are perfect, none of them are all-encompassing, none of them are, anything that's absolutely new, but regardless, I still think they're phenomenal, and I quite love them and would highly, highly recommend them to everyone, and especially people who are into feminism. That being said, let's get into the books. So the only one that I actually have a physical copy of at the moment is Mother of All Questions by Rebecca Solnit. That is Further Feminism. She has a previous feminist nonfiction essay collection called Men Explain Things to Me. That one is praised to be key feminist nonfiction. Wouldn't exactly agree. I thought it was simplistic and lacked intersectionality, which, if it's not intersectional, it's not feminism. Alright, you can keep it. You might as well. But this one did very much improve. I thought all the essays were highly engaging, and I thought it was very, very nice to see Rebecca Solnit improve her feminism and take all the criticism to heart and work harder in mentioning more intersectionalities. And I really appreciated that. So I would kind of recommend reading Men Explaining Things to Me first, just for the sake of those few essays in it that I did think were very high quality, and then also getting to this one for the sake of seeing that improvement. But alas, Men Explaining Things to Me, not quite a favorite, but this one I do love and stand by. Then I think it is a must to talk about Laura Bates when we talk about feminist nonfiction that is very in and very relevant at the moment. So I loved both Everyday Sexism and Girl Up. I think Everyday Sexism is more of a clinical, raw, statistical take on the microaggressions or aggressions altogether that women have to face in today's society. And I thought it was gut-wrenching. It was visceral. It was so hard to take in, and I had to take so many pauses. But I think it is a must read because it's important, and it's very important to be aware of everything that is going on. So you need to read it. You gotta. And then Girl Up is what I like to refer to as the young ladies guidebook to feminism, ? I think that's a quite simplistic way to put it, but regardless, I love Girl Up. I think it's accessible, I think it's intersectional, I think it does a great job of putting all these ideas across and just educating a new generation of feminists. I do think you can read it regardless of your age or how long you've been, getting into feminist nonfiction and all that shiz for, because I've been at it for a hot minute, I would say, right now, and I'm not a very young lady. I'm still young, I suppose, and a lady and all that. Anyway, you can read this regardless of who you are as a person, because it's a great time, and it's more empowering rather than debilitating in the feminist sense. It makes you hopeful as opposed to making you want to crawl into a ball for the rest of existence and just sob because the world is a terrible place, which is kind of what Everyday Sexism did. So it's a great mix, I think it would be terrible of me to speak about feminism and nonfiction and not mention Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. I will link it down below, but I already mentioned that this was one of my favorite books of 2017 altogether, and it's one of my favorite books of all time, and I go back to it. I just think about it every other day of my life. I think it's visceral, it's raw, it's powerful. I like the concept of assuming that bad feminist identity and what sort of that encompasses as far as Roxanne is aware. And I think it's kind of a label we all need to embrace for ourselves, because feminism is always evolving, it's always changing, there's always new information for us all to take in, and I love how honest and how open Roxanne is to embracing that idea and accepting that she as a person and as a feminist doesn't know everything, is not perfect, but is always willing to work on it. I thought literally 90% of the book, it's a little chunkier than the others, as far as I remember, but it's so good. I thought 90% of it-ish was highly engaging. There was this one essay about Scrabble that I didn't particularly care about, I feel, but overall, I think Roxanne is fabulous. I don't agree with all her ideas. I think particularly on trigger warnings, we stand on different sides, but I think she does a great job in putting her ideas across respectfully, and so I respect and admire her for that. I will take it back to the classics and basics with this one and tell you that I really loved The Beauty Myth by Naomi Wolf. Dua Lipa was reading and recommending this a while ago, so I suppose this is one of the new rules. You gotta read it. You have got to. You must. Anyway, so this one was written in the 80s, I believe, and it's just painful to see how relevant it remains, and it explores the idea of beauty and the way it's been implemented by society on women in order to sort of rein them in and subjugate them. It's raw, it's dense, it's just a lot. It's a lot to take in, but it's a phenomenal read that I will highly recommend. I do love bringing it back to some Irish authors as well, just because. So I really loved Girls Will Be Girls by Emer O'Toole. This deals a lot with the whole idea of gender and gender performance and performative gender and the distinction between those things, and just it's very experimental, or at least it feels kind of like that. It's very I guess it's kind of intersectional in the terms of dealing with that whole gender as a spectrum idea as opposed to a binary. So it's a good read, and it's not something I always see explored, so I really loved it. Another one that's very relevant, painfully so even, is Bitch Doctrine by Lori Petty. I think this one is amazing. It's pretty much taking no shit from the patriarchy in book form, and I can respect that. I really can. However, while I thought that the whole thing was, as a whole, amazing, there's this one essay that keeps repeatedly using the word transsexual when referring to someone that is transgender, and I think that's kind of offensive, and it's 2018. We can drop that language back where it belongs. It's kind of offensive for a lot of people. It's kind of dated, and it just left a sour taste in my mouth. This would have been one of my favorite books of 2017 had it not been for that repeated use of this, and it just felt a little belittling. I think this one is, the key feminist nonfiction. It's We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This is based on a TED Talk that she did. I will link that down below for you to watch because it's spectacular, and while I realize that lately Chimamanda has been saying some very shady shit, especially when it comes to trans women, and I'm very bitter. I think that We Should All Be Feminists is fabulous. I think it's amazing, and I'm dying to reread it, to be quite honest, and I also want to read some more of her other non-fiction-y things. I know she has a new one that's out, and also she has this other TED Talk that I really love about the danger of the single story, or something among those lines, so I'll link that down below for you as well because it's fabulous. And lastly, I feel like I must include this, but it's Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Irene Lodge. I don't think most people classify this as feminist nonfiction specifically, but it's a lot about race, and as you can tell, obviously, And I think it's one of those books that everyone and their mother and their daughter and their dog have to read. And as I said, if it's not intersectional, it's not feminism. So I feel like a very large step forward in feminism is dealing more with intersectionality and the perspectives of women unlike ourselves. And women of color are that. And that's why I'm thinking that I'm no longer talking to white people about race is kind of a feminist nonfiction at the top of it all. Just because, you know what, it's my video. I'm classifying it as such, and you can either take it or leave it. I have no complaint, whatever you decide to do, so, you know. So this has been the video. I probably have forgotten some of the books that I really liked, but you know what, it's fine. I will very likely gush about them on social media, so feel free to follow me. Links are down below. Please do let me know what your favorite feminist nonfiction is, and I will see you later with some other video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.